Hey, bienvenidos a todos! Hey, this is the Pregame Engineer Tailgate Mayor Racing Podcast, episode number 47 for Cinco de Mayo.
I don't know any Spanish, but welcome to the fastest growing podcast on the internet. Hope y'all are having a fabulous day, drinking maybe a Mexican beer or two or a margarita, or maybe you're drinking a Manhattan like me.
That's right. Well, as always, it's Tailgate Mayor Rusty Wallace here. I'm joined in the PETM Podcast studio after a lot of travel this week by Pregame Engineer Andrew Sherwin. And Sherwin, we have a very special guest on the show today, don't we?
We have the first guest we ever wanted to have, and it took us 47 episodes to get him on.
47 episodes, almost a year now.
So we certainly want to give like that tidal wave of bravado.
That's right.
To our guest tonight.
So let's go ahead and intro him. He's a national motorsports writer for Auto Week Racing, Racer Mag, and he's the NASCAR expert, if I can speak English, Rusty. It's Cinco de Mayo, but
it
English.
Is.
NASCAR expert at About.com. He founded Short Track Scene. You can follow him on Twitter at Matt Weaver SBN, which means I've just given it away. He's one of the first supporters of the PETM podcast. He's the hardest working man in the NASCAR media. I just said that, Matt Weaver. What's happening, Matt Weaver?
Well, one, I'm half flattered, but I'm also feeling the bit of a guilt trip there. The line about the first guest you guys ever wanted, and it's taken 47 episodes. So that's on me. I apologize, but it's good to be on. It's good to talk some racing with you guys. So let's do this.
Well, that's completely our fault because we just fart around and we have day jobs and we don't know what we're doing with this thing.
Yeah, when it's a hobby, it makes it a little bit more of a challenge to manage it. I think you discovered that today. I went into straight project manager mode, and I'm like, well, when do you want to do it? When do you want to call? So thank you for being here.
So, Weaver, you've been listening for a while, and you know how we start this thing. It's always with what you're drinking. And me and Sherwin, let's see, it's Cinco de Mayo, so I've got a Dos Equis and a Marg. How about you, Sherwin?
Well, I've finished all that stuff, so I went to your liquor cabinet and I made myself what I call a redneck Manhattan because it's got ice in it.
Aha!
But it's sweet vermouth, Jim Beam, and cherries.
Well, Weaver, you over there listening to watching the Cubs game, and I know you might be a little distracted, and that's all right. We appreciate a good fan. But what you drinking on tonight?
Well, right now I'm playing it safe. I've just got the standard bottle of water. But earlier today, we had the tacos cooking, had a Mexican cane sugar cola, a Pepsi. I've been trying to lose a lot of weight here the past couple of weeks, so I've largely cut out the sugar and been sticking to the bottle of water, and so far, so good today.
Well, good for you. Respectable.
Good.
Too.
Hashtag what you drinking.
That's right. So let's just go ahead and kick it off. Let's just go ahead and slice in deep, I think, because Dega kind of happened. And
your home state.
Yep, your home state there, Weaver. And Weaver, you actually had an article saying that you've been disenfranchised. I'll go ahead and put words in your mouth here, but kind of disenfranchised by the Dega plate racing for a while. And it hit home for me because I think Sherwin and I have also been that way for a while. We're similar in that respect. And so wanted to see if you could sort of expand on that and tell the PETM posse here what you were saying on that and what you meant by that.
Well, I'll start off by saying that I feel like I have never seen, and I really mean it, I have never seen NASCAR Twitter, NASCAR social media, the NASCAR fan community as deeply divided over a topic as I have this week over the, is restrictor plate racing too dangerous, or is it not worth it, or should it be tweaked, or, this entire debate. I've never seen something quite strike a chord as much as this, because, there's a lot of strong opinions, both for and against or indifferent all over the place. And so when I wrote the column that you brought up on autoweek.com under the NASCAR section, I didn't want to offer a suggestion. Like my friend and cohort at USA Today, Jeff Gluck, wrote a column with 3 ideas to change plate racing. And I didn't want to go that far because, to me, I'm not even sure if plate racing is inherently broken. So the entire point of the column was just to say that me personally, this just isn't as fun as it used to be. And there was a very clear dividing line between the moment that I went from enjoying it and looking forward to these 4 races a year to being where I'm at now, where it just makes me feel uncomfortable, uneasy, and just unhappy with it. The first time I ever covered a NASCAR race as a journalist was 2011, the spring race, which had that excellent finish with tandem drafting between Gordon, Martin, Johnson, Earnhardt. Boyer was involved in that thing as well. That was exciting. It was the first time I ever covered a race, and it couldn't have started off better, my career. But before that, I'd gone to Talladega many, many times. Like you guys brought up earlier in the show, I'm from Alabama, 4 hours south of there off the Gulf Coast in Mobile. So I've been around the rounds there at Talladega a time or two. Always loved it. I always enjoyed the close racing. I enjoyed the intensity, the sense that anyone could win. And, in fact, I enjoyed the crashes, too. There was a spectacle. It was a marvel to behold.
Yep.
But something changed in me in the fall of 2012 when there was a really big 25-car crash instigated by Tony Stewart and Michael Waltrip, who were racing for the win. Big crash. Tony Stewart got flipped upside down. And in the column, I detailed it, but I said I was standing in the garage. You know, I talked to Dale Jr. during his post-race interview session. Then I knew he was concussed. But I didn't want to say it because I'm not a doctor, but you know, that was confirmed a week later. I saw a crew member looking at his destroyed car for the first time, you know, all sorts of expletives. And I'm like, walking back to the media center, I said to myself, why are we still doing this? There has to be a different way, a better way. And that's where I'm at. I don't hate this. I don't want to change it. I just wonder, can we do it a different way? And I feel like the way we were doing it in the early 2000s was fine. I enjoyed those pack races. I felt like the pack wasn't as wound tightly together as they are now. Guys weren't pushing and shoving the way they are now. And I think that's a part of it. Also, the freshly repaved surfaces at Daytona and Talladega both are part of this as well. So there's just a lot to consider, and I'm not trying to change anyone's opinions on plate racing. I know that I'm in the minority, but I think there is a change that you go through for some of us when you make that transition from a fan to a reporter, where you see it firsthand, and you know these people personally. You know the drivers, you know the crew chiefs, the engineers, and it just really changes your perspective, I feel, when you get to view these crashes on a human level rather than just a spectacle level.
Well, you know, and me and Sherwin haven't been fans for a while. I think we have gone through a transition just as fans where you get to a point where it's no longer the spectacle of the wrecks or anything that you're drawn to. Every time we see a wreck, it's, oh, man, that's a bummer. I hate to see that. I sure hope he's okay, that sort of thing. And it's funny that you brought up the dichotomy or the yin and yang, if you will. There's two. It's the you're either for us, you're against us. It feels like you said, the polarizing effect of just this topic. And you brought up Gluck, who had mentioned stuff, and I mean, he got all kinds of hell for it. I don't know. I wasn't looking at your Twitter handle, but I imagine you got plenty of flack and plenty of people supporting you too.
Yeah, you know, the most interesting thing to happen to me, and it was the comment that I took most to heart on Twitter, is you know, part of the conversation broke off and it turned into these two friends and readers of mine who they argued that the fans don't have a voice in what's going on here because drivers have their say so, the media has their say so, and these two fans felt like media was speaking on behalf of the entire NASCAR community and attacking restrictor plate racing, attacking their favorite form of racing. And that really kind of bummed me out because I feel like I'm a fan at heart too. And so I promised these two fans that I would give them the platform and I would publish their column defending the current state of plate racing. But yeah, it's absolutely a very polarizing topic, and there's a lot of fans who feel like their voice isn't being heard, even though I don't think that's true at all. I think NASCAR is more prone to listen to fans before they listen to certainly us in the media, but even drivers and crew chiefs. I mean, keep in mind this is the same sanctioning body that very quickly, relatively, changed from tandem racing, which I thought was kind of cool and fun, to pack racing, all because the fans just hated it so much.
I was going to bring up the tandem. Well, I wasn't going to bring up tandem racing, but you brought it up, and that's something that Sherman and I had always enjoyed. And I was going to bring that up in terms of exactly what you said, that they totally listened to the fans on that, and exactly.
Did they listen to the fans, or they just listened to Dale Earnhardt Jr. say he didn't like it?
Well, if Junior doesn't like it, the fans don't like it.
At Talladega, 100%.
So, but I wasn't really going to bring up tandem racing, but now that you said you kind of enjoyed it, it was something that I really liked, something that Shorten really liked. And
well, the thing is, okay, so one of the really cool things in history, and I had to go back and reach to this because I wasn't a fan yet, is I have that Dale series of DVDs, and one of them is the 2000 Talladega race. Well, Dale Earnhardt Sr. came from 18th place to win in like 9 laps or 10 or 11 laps or whatever it was. And one of the things that really sticks with me if you go back and watch that race is there's almost a car length or maybe even a car length and a half between rows in that time's racing 16 years ago. You don't have that now. We have 2 or 3 feet at the most. So that has really changed the game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was kind of exploring that a little bit because before the race weekend in Talladega, and then a little bit afterwards too, and during the drive, I kind of watched a handful of races just to see what had changed. And Moody had even, Dave Moody had even responded to one of my tweets saying, well, what do you think's wrong and how would you fix it if you've got a problem with it? And I said, honestly, to me, the thing that sticks out the most to me is pushing. And I feel like right now you have a lot of pushing with cars that aren't made to hook up because the front of these cars and the back of these cars, they don't interlock the way that the car of tomorrow did.
Yeah, they're round.
So when you push and shove, it gets these cars really unstable, which backs them up. And I think that's part of what creates this big pack where you have literally no space between any of these cars and any of these rows. And I think if you go back and you watch races with the old, I guess, Gen 4 cars is what we'll call them, you could make moves. Even though you had a big pack, within the pack, you had the space to decide, I don't like being on the bottom, so if I can just kind of work a little bit, I can get to the middle fairly easy. I can get to the top. I can kind of pick where I want to go. But now, once you're in a line, you are stuck until a crash happens, until pit stops happen. You're pretty much stuck on the line, and I think that's what creates this frustrating period of plate racing for me, and why we've seen some really, really big crashes because guys have nowhere to go, and when they try to force the issue, whether it's late in the race or if someone makes a mistake, that's why we've seen some really bad crashes compared to even in previous versions of pack racing. I know we've always had bad crashes at Daytona and Talladega. Even before the restrictor plate, the restrictor plate was a fix for a problem. Yep. But I just feel like this version of pack racing has produced a little bit more chaos just because guys have nowhere to go.
Do you think that there is a safety issue? And the reason I ask that, I know everybody's scared. I say everybody, a lot of people, Gluck you mentioned, and maybe even yourself, I'm not sure. But talking about is this a thing where we're just waiting on something to happen, and then once it happens, then something's going to some rule change will come in, or these guys. Sherwin brought it up on Twitter, and he brought it up elsewhere. These guys, even when they're airborne right now, they're flipping low, which they're still flipping. That's not a great thing, but it's a low barrel roll or whatever it is.
Staying real close to the ground.
Staying close to the ground. They're walking out of their cars. I'm just trying to be devil's advocate here. But do you think there's a safety situation here that needs to be addressed, or is it more just the racing?
I've caught a lot of grief for my opinion on safety over the years. Look, I never want to be an advocate of putting drivers in situations where they are in harm's way, but for God's sake, they're in a race car. Mm-hmm. I've never been overly concerned with driver safety just because this is not supposed to be safe. I was one of the ones last year at Indianapolis during the month of May when there were those really frightening crashes in practice and in qualifying. I remember it was Sebastian Bourdais. Sebastian Bourdais told me in an interview, he said, this is supposed to be dangerous. We've somehow tricked the fans into thinking that this is supposed to be safe now, and that's never been true. And so I think there's this false impression that somehow we've made this sport safe because we've been lucky and we've been hardworking and we've made changes to be proactive instead of reactive. But this is still a dangerous sport. So I've never personally gotten wrapped up in being overly concerned about driver safety because it's a dangerous profession. Now, again, it is important to me that we be proactive instead of reactive, always try to do as much as we can in advance to prevent something. I feel like NASCAR has certainly done that with no driver deaths in 15 years. But I'm not so much overly concerned with the safety aspect as much as this is, to me, a competition thing.
Yeah,
Driver risk is okay to me if it's in the name of racing. But I feel like what we have right now at Daytona and Talladega, this isn't racing. It's just running and riding. The point is to no longer beat your rival competitors, no longer to win the race. But the point of the game at Daytona and Talladega is to just survive the crashes and be around at the end. And to me, it almost feels like human cockfighting with race cars, and it doesn't resemble racing. So from that perspective, the safety concern is not worth it because it's not a race, but rather just a game of survival.
Yeah. I mean, I want to remind some of the fans that are watching or listening, or the listeners that aren't aware of who you are, Matt, that you used to race. Before you joined the world of professional journalism, you were a race car driver, so you have a unique perspective. And I think we, in a lot of ways, share your perspective on plate racing in that it's very much a gimmick. Like, it's much more of a gimmick than anything else that we do at any other track. And so it's hard to navigate that bubble or that arena that that racing is a serious matter and it's very important. And then we go to Talladega and Daytona. It's like, what are we doing? This is more like the circus.
Yeah. I mean, I even sympathize with fans who want to protect this form of racing because I don't want to be overly critical or negative, but NASCAR has damaged its competition products so severely over the past decade. A lot of that is the schedule that we're at now. So many 1.5-mile intermediate tracks that were designed to be multi-purpose entertainment facilities rather than tracks designed to put on the best stock car racing product possible. I mean, if you think about it, we've traded 2 races at Rockingham, a race at Atlanta, an extra race at Darlington,
Don't
2
remind
races
us
at
of
North
Atlanta.
Wilkesboro. Yeah, we've traded all those really exciting tracks over the past 20, 25 years for a bunch of mile and a half. I mean, hell, we've even taken one of my favorite tracks back in the day, Phoenix, which I thought was really exciting. We've added the shortcut, and we've widened it and made it faster. And now that place doesn't run the way it used to either. And up until this past spring, Goodyear had really dropped the ball at Richmond. We've had 2, 3, 4 really poor races at Richmond too. So the product has been so bad. The tire has been bad. The aero stuff has been bad. And so I think what you see out of fans at Daytona and Talladega is a reaction to the rest of the schedule being so bad. It's like fans are saying this is the one race where there's unpredictability and there's excitement and close racing and hard racing. We're not getting that anywhere else, so don't take it away from Daytona and Talladega. But I think we would silence those concerns and those fears from fans if we just fix the schedule, which I think we're 10, 15 years away from that, so that's not even realistic, and I know that. But at least if we continue to work on this aero package and this tire package and the balance of the cars and taking the downforce off and just continuing to make these cars harder to drive, I think fans will be a little bit less combative over any possible change that NASCAR might consider for Daytona and Talladega.
Yeah. Well, that's a great perspective. What can I say? Let's have some fun. I introed.
Yeah, let's flip the switch.
You mean this isn't fun already?
No, it definitely
I'm having
is.
fun. I'm having a boatload of fun. But I think here's a fun topic for our folks. If you hadn't been following Weaver for a while, I introduced him as the hardest working person in the NASCAR media, and there's a reason that I did that, because I have never slept in my car for my job. Sherwin, have you?
No.
No. Weaver?
A lot of people like to make a thing out of this, and I don't know how I should feel, because some people will say, "Oh, you should take a lot of pride in that." The fact that I have a lot when I was first kind of trying to pay my dues and cut my teeth in the industry, and there were some who said, "Oh, Weaver's not professional, and he's somehow worse than we are because he's not a real employee." And I've heard both sides of it, but again, I come from a racing family, a third generation racer, and that's kind of my family background. You spend all that you have just to get to the racetrack, and if you went to a track that was far away, you don't have the money to get a hotel, so you just pull over at a rest area and kind of sleep until you can get back home. And that's kind of applied itself to the earlier days of my career too, because when I was first making the transition to journalism and still in school and working at a bakery cafe overnights, I had just enough money to make it to the track, cover a race, maybe get one meal that wasn't provided by a track, and then go back home. I couldn't get a hotel. And certainly if I wanted to cover 10 to 15 races a year back then, I was driving to all the races. I still drive to a majority of the racetracks. Fortunate enough now that I've got places to sleep more often than not. But yeah, back then, you do whatever you can just to get to the track. You want to get noticed. You want to show people that you're willing to sacrifice more than someone else. I've always said that people can maybe outspend me. They can have more resources. They can have more connections. But by God, they're not going to outwork me, and they're not going to outheart me. And hopefully people recognize that and find something that's at least commendable about it.
What was your go ahead, Sherwin?
Yeah, well, I know, I guess just to get personal with it, I remember following you on Twitter probably 3 years ago almost now, and then seeing you at Bristol, and that was such a neat experience to have someone that you interacted with over the interwebs or whatever, and then to meet you in person and to enjoy that conversation as much as I did. That's why we're here now, and your passion rings true over the phone. It rings true over the internet. It rings true through your Twitter, and it rings true through your writing.
Yeah, sometimes I get accused by folks in NASCAR of being a little too hard on them and a little too negative. But the thing that I tell fans all the time, or I even tell people in the front office, I love this with all my heart. It's the only thing that I knew for the longest time. Again, my dad raced, my grandpa raced. My nights were spent on dirt tracks in Alabama and Florida. Racing is all I've known. And even though I'm only 28 years old, I've been in it, I feel like, long enough. I have enough tenure, and I've been a fan of the NASCAR product my entire life. I'm smart enough to know things that were being done before that's not being done now, things that are working, things that aren't working. And anytime that I write something that is critical, it's coming from a place of love. And at the same time, too, I feel like not enough credit is given to the things that I do write that is very positive. I feel like there's been several pieces this year, Richmond, Atlanta, Daytona. When NASCAR gets it right, I'm the first person to say, this is what stock car racing should be. But I'm not going to just lay over when things are broken, or if I feel like NASCAR has taken a misstep, be it with a chase format or with an AllStar Race format or what have you. If I think something's not going to work, or if I think something just seems on its face silly, I feel like the fan in me is obligated to say that too. And again, hopefully more than anything else, people just recognize, or at least fans recognize, that I'm one of them, even though I'm in the media center and I have access. Even if we don't always agree, I'm still advocating from a fan perspective because I love stock car racing.
Well, absolutely. And it's funny you say all that because I believe at one point I tweeted at you, maybe you said like 3 positive things in a row. And I tried to be very respectful in that I was saying, but it came down to, Weaver, do you ever disagree with anything NASCAR says? And you immediately said, well, I'm accused of being negative more than positive. So it's funny you say that.
You know, it was fun because the weekend of, all these races run together. Richmond, there was a fun little meet and greet, kind of informal, between a handful of beat writers and NASCAR officials. Nothing was really on the record. I don't even know if I can even talk about this, but I'm going to anyway. And it was just a chance for NASCAR officials and the media to kind of just cut up and have fun and just talk about life and racing. And me and a handful of officials were standing there, and they're like, man, Weaver, I love your passion and I love your enthusiasm, but man, you're so hard on us. And I'm like, to this NASCAR official, I said, look, man, I love this stuff, but I feel like the things that I write that are critical get so much more attention than the things that I write that are good. And I said, what I'm going to have to do apparently is tag every single one of y'all in something that I write that is positive and something that is optimistic, just so y'all understand that it happens more than it doesn't happen. So hopefully they don't get mad at me for sharing that story, but we have a lot of fun. I think people enjoy at least my perspective, even if they don't always agree.
Well, all right. Well, 2 more questions for you, and let's get you back to that Cubs game because it sounds like they're picking up the pace a little bit. So, first question: what was your starstruck moment when you, or did you have one where you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm talking to this guy?
Well,
or was there one?
I think it's to my, I don't want to say to my credit, but I think it's just to
your advantage?
To my personality.
Okay.
That I never really had that. Because as soon as I got to the sport, I had already kind of covered other stick and ball sports. I had covered NFL preseason games. I had covered the NCAA basketball tournament. I had been around stars before, or at least people that are perceived as stars. I even covered IndyCar before I covered NASCAR. I don't think I ever really got starstruck by anyone. That first weekend at Talladega in April 2011, I thought it was cool. Mm-hmm. And I remember just how giddy I was. And this is a story I always tell. I remember, because I grew up a big-time Jeff Gordon fan, like many people who are in their 20s, early 30s. Yeah. He bridged the gap from one generation to the next. And so I grew up a Jeff Gordon fan. He won the pole for that spring race in April 2011. So he came in the media center as the pole winner and was talking about his accomplishments. And I thought that was cool. But the thing that I remember most about that weekend was I went back to the rest area on I-65 in Alabama, where I was sleeping that night, and it was raining. And I stopped by Walmart, got a can of canned pasta. I was eating that, and I went to bed. And I went to bed in the cab of my truck, and so it's raining on my tin roof. And I thought to myself, hey, tomorrow I'm going to wake up, and I'm going to cover a NASCAR race for the first time as a journalist. My favorite driver is on the pole. He could win this race. This is so awesome, and I'm having the time of my life just walking around the garage and having a guy like Gluck take me under his wing immediately and kind of help me get around and navigate the waters. And I've always told myself that I want to do right by that 23-year-old boy who is in that truck just trying to gut his way to cover a race as a one-off. If I can do right at 28, 29, 30 by that kid who just wanted so passionately to make this work that he would just kind of force the square peg into the circle hole, if I can do right by that kid, I'm doing okay. And so that's I wasn't starstruck, but I thought it was the coolest thing ever. And I never want to take for granted, even now that I've been doing this for 5 years, that it's still the coolest thing ever. And I still feel that way today.
That's awesome. That's a great story.
That's a fantastic response.
Let's let you out on this one. We ask this to everybody who comes on the podcast. I think I know what your answer is going to be, and I'm predicting it's very similar to what Matt Bishop told us back in the day. The question is, what's the one thing that you would change about NASCAR? If you could change one thing, and whether that's butts in the seats or whether that's just for your own edification or eyeballs on the TV or just more fun racing, what's the one thing you'd change, Weaver?
The thing that always comes to mind, and I don't know if this is something that you can just directly change, but to me, this is the biggest problem I have with the sport, in which we can turn this into a conversation about all the ways we can fix it. But my biggest problem with the modern NASCAR is how nothing seems to matter. There's nothing on the line for most of the year. There's no conflict. There's no consequence. We have this new chase format now where practically everyone gets in across all three national tours. It totally invalidates the regular season. We try so hard to negate feuds from starting, and once they do start, to punish drivers for getting in them. So we're not even allowed to have rivalries develop naturally. We've made this sport so corporate, and it's been corporate for a while, and I feel like there is a balance you can strike, because I feel like the late 90s, early 2000s were also very corporately minded, but I felt like we did a good job of encouraging personalities to be themselves, and I feel like we've gotten away from that. So I just want the sport to feel like it matters. And right now we're living in an era where outside of the chase for the championship, nothing has consequence, and covering this series and this sport on a weekly basis, I leave the track sometimes going, well, that was a race, and especially if the race wasn't fun, like so many races haven't been in the past 5 years. If a race isn't fun, and if it doesn't have consequence, then what was the point? Now, it can lack consequence if the racing is good, because then good racing is the point. But in the past couple of years, we have neither had consequence or good racing, and so I just want to feel like when I leave the track that what I saw matters. And I haven't quite felt that way in the past couple of years. Hopefully that's something that will turn around here in the next little bit.
Yeah, some underlying tone there, Matt, is sort of the millennial perspective on life in terms of what matters and what doesn't in the moment right now. I think to me that's ironic, because that's the crowd that NASCAR desperately wants to bring in, and you're a part of that. We're kind of, Rusty and I sort of like bridge the gap between
straddle the line,
yeah,
sure. But,
Gen Y and Gen Z, or Gen X and Gen Y rather, and that's an interesting perspective. I think we share a lot of that perspective.
Yeah, I just feel like racing has always been at its best when everyone goes there knowing that this matters. And I feel like NASCAR is more aware of that than ever before. And being in some of the meetings and talking to them on the record, off the record. And I do feel like the future of NASCAR is very bright. We've got some very smart people working in very different arenas, in different sectors, and they're listening to a lot of different people too. And I think sometimes, yes, I am overly hard on NASCAR, but you got to recognize too, I've got to recognize that they've got so many different entities that they have to cater to. You know, they've got a borderline, I don't even know what the word I'm looking for here is, a union of sorts with the drivers. They have practically their own union, as do the teams, the RTA, the Drivers' Council. They've got to listen to fans. They've got to listen to sponsors. They've got to listen to the television networks. And every single one of these groups have their own different agendas. And none of their agendas, often align. And I think NASCAR does do the best job that they can, given how many voices they have to listen to. And I feel like they're doing a better job of that right now than they have in a while. So hopefully the results on the track at the events kind of manifest themselves.
Well, Weaver, it's been, I think we're in overtime now from when from the amount of time we said we'd take up yours. So can't tell you how much we appreciate you being on the show. Finally get you on the show again. That's our fault, but we'll still give you help.
Definitely on us.
But I'll tell you what, starstruck moment for old Sherwin and Rusty, finally having that first guest that we've always wanted. Well, I mean, we've had other guests, but yeah, you're the first, man, so appreciate you being on. This has been awesome.
Yeah, we'll have to do this again here. I promise it won't be another 46, 47. We'll do this here later in the summer, and hopefully it'll be the first of many.
And as long as you're playing the Nationals, go Cubs, man.
Yeah, it's all about getting started, and I can certainly root for your Cubbies against that. What's his name? Douche. Going after Brianna Harper. I'm not making any fans in Northern Virginia right now.
Is it Bryce Harper and his squinty, douchey eyes?
Yes.
Squinty, douchey eyes.
Yes. Yep. Perfect.
All right, man. Well, appreciate you coming on. We'll talk to you soon.
Crew chief reappropriating comment about Logano. That's what's funny about that.
Talk to you guys later. Thank you all for having me on.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
We really appreciate it. Well,
there we go.
That was really cool.
That was fun.
Right,
and
so we're still being recorded, so we have to continue the show.
We're still here. We have to continue the show. You know what? I will admit a mistake already. Let me see if I can pull up the mistake sound. What was our mistake sound? I don't even remember what it was. Car crash right here, wasn't it? It was. Oh, dude's leg.
Dude's car got a little dinged up. Dude's leg got a little dinged up.
So I said that I thought I would know what Weaver was going to say about his one change in NASCAR. And the reason I said that is because he's such a short track guy, and I thought he would say more short tracks.
Yep,
yeah. Exactly. And he came out and said that. Me and you were sitting here with our mouths wide open. For anybody who's not on Periscope, me and Sherwin, bugs flying in and out of our mouth just then as we're going, oh my gosh, is he saying that? That's so strong. I was taking him I shouldn't say taking him back. I wasn't. I was surprised by the answer, and I loved that we asked that. That's the reason we asked that question.
Yeah, well, when he and Tricia said that they were going to be covering Hickory this weekend, I was like, daggum, I want to go. And then I remembered
I'm jealous.
It's the Kentucky Derby this weekend, too, so there's that whole thing. I don't have a watch party totally organized myself, either hosting or attending, but I don't know that I'm necessarily going to drive, 4 hours to Hickory just for a short track race, even though that's what I probably should do because of how fun it's probably going to be.
Yeah. Well, it's hard to get excited about horse racing after last year.
No kid.
We're not going to, it's kind of like, we had a 40-year thing happen last year.
The once in a generation, first time since 77 or was it 72?
I was thinking 77.
77.
We'll say 77.
So first time in our lifetime for sure. Been on this planet 35 years, and first time we saw the American old Triple Crown.
So anyway, they're gonna announce some. Announce if I'm back in teenage Rusty mode.
Did your voice just break?
Something like that,
or crack? I guess is the right
break,
word.
Crack.
Mine
whatever
does
it
all the time.
We have. They're gonna announce some changes to the AllStar Race, and
no. Whose sponsor didn't get in that they need to change the rules for?
They got to expand the field a little more. No, so I was thinking this was a good time for us to talk about any ideas for what you think ought to change. Let's be AM radio fun here. Let's throw out some crazy crap.
Well, the coolest thing that we do in NASCAR is qualifying for the All-Star Race.
So, number one is do not change qualifying because they do no no pit road speeding penalties during qualifying, and they have to change 4 tires. And do they have to gas up or anything? Or is it change?
No gas, just tires.
Just tires. They have to change 4 tires as fast as humanly possible, and they come screaming in at 100.
We saw max speed was Kurt Busch. He hit pit road at like 161 miles an hour, and somehow got woed up and got in the spot.
Yeah, come screaming in. Yeah, get woed up, and you have to be.
That's redneck NASCAR, y'all. In case you didn't know, I think most of y'all know that by now. We speak NASCAR. Woed up like you wound up a horse. Whoa,
whoa there, buddy. So that definitely needs to not change because that's
the coolest thing we do in NASCAR.
Yeah. So what could we change? Because I think one of the I'll say 2 things that I have issue with. One is that everybody makes it in, if you will, or there's a lot of people in who.
I mean, they make it so it's at least 25 cars.
Yeah. And number 2, I think the way they have it now, if I remember right, because they have like a 10-lap finish or whatever it is, and the same person is...
Oh, like a shootout.
Yeah, the shootout at the very end. And the winner has led all 10 laps in the last like 2 or 3 years, something like that.
So do I get to raise my hand and say, I know what I would do?
What would you do, Sherwin?
One of the segments would be run on the bull ring, on the quarter mile.
Wow. I love it. No, I love this. Here's my all right, so let's combine that with what I'll do. I'm going to eliminate half the field after the first run. Because, look, we talked about
those guys.
Elimination being a problem in a lot of ways because of sponsors and stuff. But this is the AllStar Race. You're not guaranteed in this thing in the first place. So you're not guaranteed sponsorship and blah, blah, blah. Let's eliminate half the field. Somebody said the magic word.
For sure.
Figure 8.
I saw figure 8 there, too.
I saw figure 8. If you're doing figure 8, you might as well be towing trailers, too, if you're doing a figure 8.
Well, towing a trailer, towing a boat.
Towing a boat, whatever.
Like 3 hinges. Vehicle, trailer, boat.
So I like the ideas, though.
Well, run that some bitch in reverse. I don't mean reverse in the cars, but let's run it clockwise.
Yeah, run it. European style.
Yeah, let's run it clockwise. Exactly.
I like it. So
make them pit on the right. Make it something different. I think that's the biggest thing we want to see is we call them NASCAR AllStars.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we run the same car in the same type of race? I mean, I know we're doing the heat thing or whatever, and they're trying to build up the popularity of that now with the Xfinity Series. But if these are NASCAR AllStars, why don't we ask them to do something they don't normally do?
Yeah.
I mean, I know we need Charlotte and all the hype around and the attention around being NASCAR's headquarters. Why not run the dirt track? How cool would that be if they all went out and ran dirt cars?
Yep. Dirt cars, anything. I think.
You know what they would be doing?
What's that?
Here's what they'd be doing. They'd be selling like a $70 or $80 ticket, and they'd be trying to figure out how to build more bleachers around the dirt track.
That's a good point. Oh man, over the dirt track. You're exactly right about that. Have them run in the dirt,
instead of having. How do we figure out how to make 40,000 people in the grandstands look cool on television? We could be at the dirt track.
That's a great point. And you know what, too? I just got goosebumps. See those?
I mean,
because the thought that I just had. Think about how they do it in like baseball. One night you have home run derby. One night you have, and same thing in basketball. We have the slam dunk contest. Why don't we have the dirt track race in NASCAR? Right, it's right there next door.
And then it's a natural progression. We already have the other things. Although they canceled the pit crew challenge last year, they didn't show it on TV.
That's a bummer.
Actually, I don't know that they canceled it, but they didn't show it live on television like they used to do on Speed. So they had the pit crew challenge, and then you had like Friday night qualifying was the coolest thing there's ever been on Earth.
Yep.
With Kurt Busch hitting pit road at 161 miles an hour, which we've already said, but I'm going to say it till I get blue in the face because it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then you have the truck race on Saturday night, or the Friday night, and they have the AllStar race on Saturday night. Why not incorporate some other thing that we could watch?
Yep.
That either is the main show or is an appendix to the main show or a precursor to the main show. And either the bull ring within Charlotte Motor Speedway or the dirt track seems like a perfect way to fill that gap.
So speaking of the main show, Kenny Smith, in the PETM Podcast car.
Oh, did we get a result?
No, he is about to start this race. I believe
the race is about to go live. I just had to cancel out of somebody's live Periscope. Deal.
So we're about to start, and for some reason my flash blocker thing is giving me crap here. So we'll have to catch it on the flip side. But let's talk about the PETM Podcast 24K car there. He's racing tonight. The PETM Podcast car had its first lead laps of the year It's been 3 races, but
we started on the front row, led the first lap. Pretty cool.
That was awesome. I had goosebumps. We were going nuts. It was so cool to watch Kenny lead a lap there, and that was fun as hell. Let's see here. I'm going to move down the deal here. We're starting to run out of time here. I want to make sure we got Kenny in on it. But the next year's schedule is released. There's not a whole lot of big changes or anything. Dega moved out.
Atlanta's still in winter. It just happens to be in March now.
A week later.
March.
We're getting closer. If you remember back in the day, it was on the St. Patty's Day weekend.
Right. I remember it being on like the 16th.
I remember the hangovers.
And I remember it being on like the 9th.
Yeah.
And now it's going to be on the 5th.
So that works out better for the calendar there.
Yeah, airplane bottles.
Oh yeah, we're getting some props from.
We'll drink one here in a minute if y'all raise enough hell on the old Periscope box.
The biggest thing is Dega and Kansas in the fall moved around. So that means that Dega is no longer an elimination race. It's still in the chase, just not an elimination race, which I think is a great thing.
I totally agree. It's like, we know what Dega is. Yes, there are people that are favorites. There are favorites that have a better chance to win at Talladega than anybody else. But in the end, if you didn't run the race at all and you did the bingo thing and you weighted it like an NBA lottery draft with the favorites, you're going to get a very similar bell curve of results.
Yep.
There's about 10 cars that have a really good chance to win, but all 40 cars have a chance to win if something really freaking weird happens.
Yep.
Unlike a racetrack where you have to have a lot of really technical skills, you have to spend a lot of money in engineering, and you have to have somebody making really good decisions on the pit box and really good decisions behind the wheel.
Time for a fact that can't possibly be true. What is it called?
Truth. It's a fact that can't be a fact.
A fact that can't be a fact.
Yep.
Jeff Gordon is eligible for the AllStar race, and Chase Elliott
false.
is not.
False.
False. Tell me false. Why false?
No, I know it's 100% true because Jeff won last year, and that's one of the qualifiers. And Chase is a rookie and has yet to win a pole. No, he did win a pole. That's not a qualifier for the All-Star race, though. That's a qualifier for next year's Sprint Unlimited.
Used to be Gatorade. No, it used to be what was it?
It used to be the Budweiser Shootout.
Budweiser Shootout.
Yeah,
that's what it was when we went to it.
Now it's a Sprint Unlimited.
Yep.
Yeah, and Chase, he would have to win this weekend.
Or get voted in, or transfer spot, or blah, blah, blah. So many ways to get in. We talked about it.
We have 2 races, right? We have Kansas, and we have one more. Where's that one at? Before we have the All-Star race.
You got me.
Yeah, I'm
only good at next
This
week.
is us being bad fans. We don't look at the schedule too much other than we know when we're going to the racetrack, and that's not for a while yet unless we make some decisions we haven't made yet.
Yeah. Dover's
typically right after Memorial Day. Did they move it up?
They moved it up.
Okay,
so it's
cool.
Kansas, Dover, Charlotte.
You know what? I think Chase has a really good shot at winning Dover.
That's a good point.
But he's going to have to win either this weekend or next in order to run the All-Star race.
So let's talk about next week. Picks
for Kansas.
We're going to Kansas. Which before you do any picks.
Where's Dorothy and where's Toto?
Yeah, right. That was way too low too. So apologies to everybody on how low that was. I've been having to.
Do we play it again? Do
we play it again?
I mean, to redeem ourselves.
Bet you're sorry, but
we play it again to redeem ourselves.
That's a lot better.
There we go.
it was at least somewhat better. At least I don't know. We'll see how it comes out in the end. Anyway, so let's see. I don't know. I don't remember who I picked last week. I'm terrible at this. It was Dega. Who cares?
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, doesn't matter. I flipped a coin and said a name and stuff happened.
What are we going to
I know who I picked Denny. I picked Denny. Where did he finish? DFL. What?
I'd probably pick Brad if I had to guess.
Well, and he won then, so go for it.
Well, okay. I may have lied about that. I don't know.
You
I
just
forgot that he won.
There,
to be honest with you,
goes show you how much.
Yeah, I watched it on DVR. We don't give a shit about or stuff about Talladega, y'all. We're probably gonna let that one slide.
Maybe.
Yeah, one little PG
he said
moment there.
Ship.
The ship.
I
The ship
shipped
has
my
sailed.
pants.
The ship has sailed, or the ship has pulled into the dock. No, so Kansas for me, I feel like it's either now or never. From Matt Kenseth.
Dang it! I was doing it. I remembered that I had picked.
So I'm gonna pick Joey Logano.
Okay, good for you. Because I had picked Kansas at Kansas. It's my theme song.
Right.
Or
no,
something.
I'm going Joey.
Okay.
I want Joey.
Then I'm gonna pick Jimmy Johnson. No, I'm picking
Jimmy's Johnson.
no, I'm picking Kansas. Kansas at Kansas.
Kansas at Kansas.
Hey, yes, sir.
Kansas at Kansas.
I would.
I'm picking his arch rival as they're trying to bill.
Excellent. You know what?
Yeah.
If Joey dumps Kenseth,
to hell with Kyle. By the way, Periscope people.
If Joey dumps Kenseth because of all the BS and all that,
Do I have to buy you a bottle of scotch, or do you have to
buy you a bottle of
run
scotch?
down the road naked or something?
I'll run down the road naked. It's just that funny. It's just that funny. So the rivalry is back or whatever it is. So, well, anyway, I'm excited. I'm excited now again.
It's going to be fun. What do you even?
Again.
Okay, so we're going to have a live conversation here on the old, not the tweeter box. We're on the podcast box. What are you doing this weekend? We got Kentucky Derby coming up.
I don't even remember what I'm doing this weekend.
You were traveling all week. I was.
I know
all
what
week.
I'm doing.
Your gorgeous wife is
doing.
sitting here listening to us and laughing.
yeah, I know what I'm doing. Let's see. Tomorrow she runs all the big events at Georgia Tech. So
we got commencement.
She has
early
commencement
in the morning and
tomorrow and Saturday, and then Saturday. That's right. Saturday night, we're going to go to a nice restaurant because she made me do that. She's like, we're going to this really nice restaurant in Buckhead right after I'm done. Deal with it. And I'm like, okay.
But
okay.
what time? What time did you say?
If Delana Harvick wears the pants in that family,
or the
Frizz
suit.
11 wears the fire suit in this family. I promise. So anyway, I love you, babe. Follow her on Twitter. It's at the Frizz 11.
At the Frizz 11. 6:20 gate time for the Kentucky Derby.
Okay. Yep.
That's
as always.
typically what it is.
As always.
Got to get that mint julep in.
Yep.
Trying to get out of commencement by then.
Yeah.
They're trying to be done by
So, okay. So, I don't know what I'm doing, but we're still doing the show live, and it doesn't matter.
We'll do something. You know what it's time for?
We're closing out.
We're closing out. It's a Jelly
All right,
Bean
y'all.
Closeout
Here
Challenge.
we go. Cinco de Mayo Jelly Bean Closeout Challenge. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Weaver is such a good dude.
Weaver is so awesome. Follow him at Matt Weaver SBN.
And if you want his personal account, it's capital J Matthew Weaver.
Yep.
Or Matt Weaver.
Yeah. Something
One
like
of those.
Yeah, it's got a
It's
J in
easy
it.
to find.
It's cool. Y'all know what we are.
I'm at pre-game ENG.
I'm Tailgate Mayor at Tailgate Mayor. Y'all, if you're new to the podcast, get your sticker.
Go get your sticker. Got
Get your sticker. All you got to do, email us, DM us, go to PETMpodcast.com. Find all the info. Just scroll down just a hair.
Yeah,
It's all right there.
PETM Podcast, PETM Posse, hashtag and all that crap.
Hey, big shout outs to the posse.
Yeah.
1,118 strong as of the start of this podcast.
That's
y'all
right.
are the best. We love y'all to
Y'all
death.
are awesome.
We do it for y'all. It's not even about us anymore.
Cheers.
Do it for y'all. So, cheers to y'all.
Jelly beans are good as hell.
We sure are. So we'll talk to y'all next week. Y'all have a good one.
All right, we're out. That's it. Thumbs up.